In outdoor recreation, everything is based on what you find to be fun. For some people, participating in football is the way to go, and for others, it's watching in the stands. My definition might be a little strange to some people, but for me, hiking, baseball, canoeing, and gardening are the best ways for me to get back to my happy place, where my mind, body, and spirit are at peace. With some practice behind them, the Knickerbockers were ready for their first game against a rival team. On June 19, 1846, in New York, baseball was born. The New York Nine annihilated the Knickerbockers 23-1 in 4 innings. The game of baseball is an American classic. Although it has evolved over the years, few things remain the same. 3 bases, home plate, a ball, and a bat. These are the fundamentals of baseball that make it truly playable. It now has 9 innings, but it can go way longer. The longest game in Major League Baseball history was a 25-inning affair on May 8, 1984, when the Chicago White Sox beat the Milwaukee Brewers 7-6. The game lasted 8 hours and 6 minutes. Can you imagine playing baseball for that long and not scoring more than 7 points? Wow. There are a lot of movies about baseball, including Bull Durham, my personal favorite, A Field of Dreams, The Sandlot 2, which is awful, and A League of Their Own. And there are a million more, but those are the highlights. Another reason to enjoy baseball is that it's relaxing to know the rhythm of the game and anticipate, but not be able to predict every move. Baseball is an amazing game, and if you've not enjoyed it before, make it to a Double-A or even to a Major League game. The Chattanooga Lookouts and the Atlanta Braves offer 2 very good options. Make sure to get out there and support a local team. A great quote from Bull Durham is, "I see great things in baseball. It's our game, the American game. It will repair our losses and be a blessing to us." You could look it up. This is really a Walt Whitman quote, paraphrased. Look it up. Another pastime in the outdoors that I find amazing is gardening. Gardening may not seem like recreation to the average person, but to me, it's one of the best forms. There are many ways to garden. You can have an in-ground garden where you till up the grounds. This is therapeutic, but a little labor-intensive. You till up the grass, then pull out the chunks, and then go through it again to make sure you're deep enough for the starting of rooting of the plants. And then the most amazing part of the tilling experience is when you walk out in the early morning with your bare feet and the earth between your toes and pick out the rocks before planting. Another way to garden is in raised beds. This is the way I'm currently gardening. In raised beds, I plant the seeds in the greenhouse and grow them until they're strong enough to transfer them into the bed full of horse and cow manure. This is a great fertilizer, and even though it sounds gross, if you use the really old stuff, it's basically soil. I bought some from a friend this year, and it's from 2012, so there's really not very much difference between manure and the soil you buy in the store, except 2 things. 1, it's cheaper, and 2, it has twice the nutrients. This is also therapeutic in that you can mix your hands into the soil and watch the slow growth of the seeds into the full fledge of a plant. It's truly incredible. I find this to be the best way for me to get back into a state of mind where I can relax and be calm while still taking frustration out on weeds. Living near the Cumberland Plateau and the Great Smoky Mountain National Park provides a beautiful area to hike. The idea of walking on a trail in the woods for recreation has grown more popular over the years, but for me, it has always been a part of my life. Being out in the mountains, hiking, allows me to find a place in a way that I cannot anywhere else. I hear the sounds of woodland birds and creatures at play, and I realize that life goes on around us every day, despite my anxiety or concerns. It's great exercise, and unless an individual is confined to an assistive device, most trails are accessible. Even those that must use a wheelchair or a walker, the Great Smoky Mountain National Park provides several paved and level walking paths throughout homesteads and by babbling streams. No equipment is required unless you prefer a walking stick, other than a safe, solid shoe or boot, so that it's extremely affordable. If you decide to go further and stay overnight on the trail, then you would need additional supplies. Anyone hiking should always carry water. Hiking allows you to see beautiful woods, meadows, and sometimes exceptional views and waterfalls. While you're doing this, you get plenty of exercise. It makes me feel much better to be out on the trail, and I encourage you to come along and try it. Canoeing is something that my family has enjoyed my whole life. We have an Old Town 18-foot canoe, paddles, life vest for anyone from babies to adults. Perhaps my favorite piece of canoe gear is the one that my brother Charlie introduced. It's a canoe luggage. It seals up to be virtually waterproof in case you capsize, which has never happened to me, or it rains on your gear. When you canoe, you find a lake or river with a placid stream. Because if the current's too swift, it's almost impossible to make your way back to return upstream. You pack your lunch and you put on your bandana and push off. Water sandals, like Tevas, are essential so you can walk your boat into the shallows and then step carefully in before using a paddle to navigate into open water. When I have been out on the water, I have seen many types of fish, otters, snakes, herons, and water birds. Once we saw an animal that was mostly like a nutria, which is an otter. It was possibly the oddest thing I have ever seen on the water. When you canoe, you have a chance to see nature from a perspective of the water creatures. It always reminds me of a very small part we play in the world, but how much as humans we have responsibility to our natural environment. Floating down the river between the reeds and the lilies and the weeping willows, it is disgusting to see natural-like cans and plastic rings from soda bottles and old tires fouling the home of creatures who live there. Canoeing is not accessible if you don't have equipment, but many state parks do rent them. Safety, knowing how to steer and navigate are essential, but time spent in a canoe brings peace and awareness, and a time that I often use to pray and refresh my faith. Enjoying the water in this way is peaceful and reassuring. As you can see, being out in the natural world is essential to my recreation, as well as my ability to regroup and refocus myself when the world becomes strident and overwhelming. I know people who try and de-stress by using various types of addictive substances and by overworking so that they feel that they're never behind, but it doesn't seem to be highly effective. I decided that as an adult to make some of the pursuits that I enjoyed in my childhood things that I would include in my life. I enjoy watching a baseball game, and I might yell and cheer for my favorite team, but you will no longer find me on the field as I once was in middle school softball. However, you will find me in a canoe, on a hiking trail, or working in a garden. I encourage you to find pursuits that are meaningful to you and allow you to find peace, perspective, and fun.